Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to my hobby blog. Today I'm going to be talking about Stephen King's From a Buick 8. This is a really interesting novel. It's pretty short when it comes to Stephen King. This was written back in 2001, maybe 2002 at the latest. But I really enjoyed this one. This is a story about a police department out in Pennsylvania who has a Buick in the sort of storage shed that keeps having weird stuff going on. And the entire novel is basically an account of this car over about 60 years of history, about maybe 40 years. And we get a lot of different accounts about the car and sort of the weird things happening. Sometimes inorganic matter shows up, sometimes organic matter shows up. And it's not anything that we know of. It's things that are coming from elsewhere. I'm trying to talk about this without spoilers, but it's a very Lovecraftian story. I really enjoyed it personally. And I will say that the character work was not as good as it usually is when it comes to Stephen King. That was the one aspect of it that I really wanted more out of. It was fine. There was like two characters who I felt like were unique and interesting enough for me to kind of keep them in the back of my mind while I read, but otherwise I was just reading about the car. And that's really what it came down to. That was the only interesting part of the storyline was the car, because that's what the main kind of object is within this world, or within this book that the entire story revolves around. So yeah, the character work was just not there. That's one of the main things that I think Stephen King is usually good about, but in this book, he was just not there for that. Could be many different reasons why. I'm not going to predict or try to make an explanation for it. Sometimes he misses, and that's fine. This is not my favorite novel of Stephen King's. This is not one that I think I will ever reread. Maybe I'll get rid of it, but for now, I'm just going to hold on to it and just kind of, just have it in the collection. But I think there were rumors that the movie was going to come out. Thomas Jane, who plays the father in The Mist, one of my favorite Stephen King adaptations, he was talking about how he wanted to get the rights for the movie to do an adaptation from the book. And I think it would make a better movie, but I don't think there's enough interesting things in the book for it to become a good movie unless they change some things around, because it's not a very shocking story. I felt like a lot of it could be predicted. It was not surprising whatsoever to read it. A lot of the things that I thought would come out of the car did come out. And the ending just was not that good. A lot of people say Stephen King does bad endings. I disagree. I think his endings are usually awesome. I really enjoy them. But I think this book has been the worst ending I've read, aside from The Shining. I love The Shining. But I think that ending was probably a little better than this ending. But this one was just it just ended so uninterestingly. Like, it was just so sudden, and it didn't really give a satisfying answer to anything, and just kind of gave the bare minimum answers, and just was kind of like, okay, here's an explanation, be happy. And that's sort of all you had to go off of with the ending, and it was very disappointing. I did not care for it at all. I was really hoping for kind of this big showdown towards the end, but that didn't happen. Everything just kind of whimpers to an end. And so even though I did not really care for the ending, I think the book is just good enough to put time in and actually read it. I think it's a 7 out of 10 at most. I think 6 out of 10 at the least. So I did enjoy some parts of it, but otherwise, I don't think this was a very interesting Stephen King book. I would never send someone who has never read a Stephen King book here first. I think there are a lot better novels, standalone novels by Stephen King that are better. This one just felt more like a writing exercise. He even says himself in the acknowledgments, that he only worked for about 2 months on the first draft of it. And otherwise, he said it was just a very fast novel that he wrote, and there were a few things that he was inspired by, but he usually never has plot by plot details figured out ahead of time. And I think if he had figured out the ending, it would have been so much better. Because right now it's just kind of like, yeah, it's a story. I enjoyed some aspects of it, but I wouldn't start here. I think it's worth reading, but otherwise, I mean, if you only have so many books that you want to read by Stephen King, I would say don't read this. Read other ones. I don't know how bad it can get, but this one was not that bad overall. But otherwise, there's really not much to talk about with this book. It was good. I didn't think it was that interesting. No new concepts. No crazy stuff happens. Descriptions are good. They're still as disgusting as ever that Stephen King does. But yeah, this book was not the best. But maybe a movie adaptation would do better. I don't think it will. There's not enough going on in this book, in my opinion. But thank you all so much for watching, and please have a great rest of the day.